A young adult driving home from a casual night out with friends is alone on the highway. It's a familiar route, one they've driven dozens of times before. The road is empty, aside from the occasional car speeding by in the opposite direction, his headlights briefly illuminating the darkness. The soothing rhythm of the drive starts to relax him. He turns the radio on, letting soft music play in the background. But after a few minutes, the signal begins to crackle, and static replaces the song. Annoyed, he turned it off, thinking nothing of it. As he drives on, the darkness around him feels thicker, almost like it's pressing against the windows. He glances at the rearview mirror out of habit and notices nothing unusual. Just the empty back seat and the faint glow of red taillights far behind. But then there's a subtle shift, a feeling like the shadows outside the car are watching. He shrugs it off, convinced it's just his imagination. The highway stretches on, endless and quiet. The hum of the tires becomes the only sound accompanying him. He tries to distract himself, fiddling with the heater knobs and adjusting the seat. But then, faintly over the sound of the engine, he heard something, a soft thud. It's so subtle that he thinks he imagined it. Maybe it was just the car hitting a bump or the loose things in the trunk shifting around. He brushes it off, but the feeling of unease creeps back. Minutes pass, and there it is again, a louder thump. This time, it's distinct. It almost sounds like it came from outside, near the back of the car. The young guy's grip on the steering wheel tightens as their heart starts to race. He tells himself it's probably just a stray rock kicking up from the road. But deep down, he knows it isn't. The sound feels out of place, unnatural somehow. Trying to keep calm, he steals a quick glance in the rearview mirror, but nothing seems out of the ordinary. He shakes his head and mutters to himself, "Stop overthinking, it's just the highway playing tricks on you." But the silence starts to feel heavier, like it's pressing against him. He noticed the faint tail lights of the car far behind them starting to disappear as the road bends ahead. For a moment, he realizes he's truly alone now, with nothing but the dark expanse of night surrounding his car. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he sees something flash, just a flicker, something impossible to describe. It's like a shadow darting across the road. But before he can look closely, it's gone. The road ahead seems endless, and the quiet is starting to feel oppressive. The young guy rolled down the window, hoping the breeze would clear his mind. The cool night air rushes in, carrying with it the faint sound of leaves rustling. But then he heard something else, a faint whisper-like sound carried by the wind. It's soft at first, almost too quiet to notice. It feels like someone is murmuring, but the words are unclear. He leaned closer to the window, trying to catch the sound, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Shaking his head, he mutters, "Just the wind, nothing more." But the uneasy feeling in his chest tightens. Something about the whisper felt wrong, like it wasn't coming from the outside, but from somewhere closer, somewhere inside the car. Determined to shake off the paranoia, he gripped the steering wheel tightly and focused on the road ahead. The headlights illuminate the black asphalt, but every now and then, his eyes dart to the sides of the road where shadows dance. At first, it seems harmless, the swaying of trees or the flickering of a roadside sign. But soon, the shadows start to move in ways they shouldn't. They twist and stretch unnaturally, forming shapes that the young guy swears look like figures watching him. His breath quickens, and he forces himself to stare straight ahead. Just keep driving, hoping the act of saying it aloud would make the fear disappear. But the shadows don't stop. In fact, they seem to be getting closer. The young guy is gripping the wheel tightly as the shadows outside seem to move in ways that don't make sense. His heart pounds, but he tells himself it's just his tired mind playing tricks. The quiet night stretches on, but then, something strange happens. The car's engine gives a sudden sputter before settling back to its normal hum. For a split second, the headlights flicker. It's over so quickly that he wonders if it really happened. Before he can process it, the radio, long turned off, sputters to life with static. At first, it's just noise, but then he hears something hidden in the garbled sound. It's faint, like someone's trying to talk. Leaning closer, he freezes when the static clears, and a voice whispers,
"Don't stop."
He yanks his hand away from the radio, every nerve in his body on edge. The chill in the air feels heavier now, making it hard to breathe. Was it his imagination? Or did he really hear it? The young guy presses his foot on the gas, speeding up as if he can outrun the unease creeping into his chest. Outside, the darkness seems to close in tighter, and even the comforting sight of taillights from distant cars is now gone. He's completely alone. Glancing in the rearview mirror, his heart skips a beat. At first, he doesn't notice anything unusual, but then his eyes catch faint smudges on the back window, handprints pressed against the glass. He pulls his gaze away, gripping the wheel even tighter. "Those weren't there before," he whispers to himself, his voice shaky. He considers pulling over to check it out, but decides against it. Every instinct tells him to keep driving, no matter what. The young guy tries to keep his eyes on the road, but the handprints on the back window keep gnawing at his mind. They were faint before, but as minutes pass, he notices something chilling. They seem to be multiplying. At first, it's just one more smudge, then another, and another. Each one looks pressed harder into the glass, like desperate hands clawing to get inside. He glances back in disbelief, his breath hitching. He mutters to himself, "This isn't happening. I'm just imagining it." But no matter how many times he tells himself that, the handprints remain, growing clearer with every passing second. The highway bends sharply ahead, forcing him to focus on the steering. The young guy drives faster, hoping the smudges will stop appearing, or at least fade away. The silence inside the car grows heavier, almost unbearable. As his nerves fray, he risks one more glance in the rearview mirror. But this time, it isn't just the smudges. His eyes widen in terror as he spots something else, a shadowy figure sitting in the back seat. It's blurry, almost indistinct, but it's undeniably there. It doesn't move, doesn't make a sound. The guy feels its presence like a weight pressing on his chest. He whips his head around to look directly at the back seat, but there's nothing there. It's empty. Shaking, he looks back at the rearview mirror. The shadowy figure is still there, staring right at him. The young guy's breathing grows shallow as his eyes remain locked on the shadowy figure in the rearview mirror. It doesn't move. It doesn't blink. But its presence feels heavy, suffocating. His knuckles ache from gripping the wheel too tightly, and sweat drips down his temple. Every instinct tells him to get away, but where can he go? He's on an empty highway, miles from the nearest town. Without thinking, he slams his foot on the gas, the car roaring forward as the speedometer climbs. The figure remains in the mirror, unmoving, watching him. Desperate, he shouts into the empty car, "What do you want?" But there's no reply. The figure doesn't vanish, doesn't react. It simply sits there, a silent, unnerving presence. The young guy's mind races, replaying the events of the night. The radio static, the multiplying handprints, the flickering headlights. None of it makes sense. He tries to convince himself it's all just a bad dream, but the figure in the mirror is proof that something horrifyingly is happening. In a moment of courage, or perhaps sheer desperation, he decides to look directly at the back seat again. This time, he doesn't whip his head around like before. He slowly turns, his breath hitching as his eyes land on the empty seat. But it's not empty. For the briefest of moments, he sees the figure sitting there, a shadowy, almost transparent shape. Its eyes lock onto his, and he feels a wave of cold fear wash over him. He snaps his head back to face the road, hands shaking uncontrollably. The figure is still in the mirror, but now it feels closer. The young guy can't take it anymore. The figure in the rearview mirror feels closer with every second, suffocating him with its presence. He knows he can't just ignore it, it won't go away. His hands tremble as he mutters, okay, you want my attention? You've got it." With a deep, shaky breath, he grips the wheel and forces himself to look in the mirror again. This time, the figure isn't blurry. It's as clear as day, a pale, gaunt face with hollow eyes that seem to pierce right through him. Its mouth curls into a slow, unnatural smile. The young guy gasps, his heart hammering in his chest. Suddenly, the figure leans forward in the mirror as if it's about to reach out for him. The young guy screams and slams on the brakes, the tires screeching as the car skids to a stop on the empty highway. The car sits in the middle of the road, the engine ticking softly as it cools. The young guy is frozen in his seat, his knuckles white from clutching the wheel. He can't bring himself to look in the mirror, or anywhere else. Minutes pass, and the world around him feels eerily quiet. The oppressive presence is gone, but the fear still lingers. Slowly, he turns to check the back seat. It's empty. No shadows, no figures, no handprints. He exhaled shakily, relief washing over him like a wave. It's over, he whispers, trying to convince himself. He starts the car again, eager to leave the nightmare behind and get home. As the young guy drives away, the darkness begins to feel less threatening. The highway seems normal again, almost comforting. He glances in the mirror one last time to make sure everything is okay. But his blood runs cold. In the faint reflection of the rearview mirror, he sees it again, the pale face, staring back at him with that twisted smile.